Hello, my friends. Welcome once again to Spiritism, a closer look. You are on Kardec Radio. This is Luiz Lima broadcasting from Orlando, Florida. We do our program weekly, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight, we are going to take a closer look at free will. Very interesting topic. Actually, this is a portion of the Spirits book. There are a set of questions in there. Free will is such a wide subject that we could spend, you know, a very long time talking about it. So, what we are going to do today is we chose a few things related to free will to discuss, bring over here and discuss. It's not going to be a full coverage because we can't do it in 30 minutes. It would require several programs. So I'm sure we're going to come back to the subject in the near future. So tonight we are going to take this initial look at free will. So what is free will? That's the first question. If you go to the dictionary, if you go to the Webster's dictionary, it's a plain simple definition. There's two definitions for it. First is a voluntary choice or decision. So voluntary, you choose. Second definition, freedom of humans to make choices that are not determined by prior causes or by divine intervention. So it's our freedom to make our own choices. But you see, it's not about how good or how bad my choices are. It's just about my ability to make choices, to make these choices. And I do have that ability. So, how the ability is going to be used, how my choices are going to come out, that's a whole different story. We are discussing if we have or not free will. And we do. This is clearly stated in one of the questions in the Spirits book that we do have free will. Otherwise, if we didn't, we would be machines, robots with no power of make our own decisions. Now, free will, although we have it, it can be influenced by a few aspects and paradigms. For example, cultural environment. Okay, let's just say, for example, I'm here in the US, in Florida, and I dress in a certain way. I make my choices. I make tonight I want to wear this. Tomorrow I want to wear something else, jeans or whatever. I make my own choices within the US culture. If I travel to another country, I might have to make choices that I wouldn't make if I were here at home. So, for example, if we go to, let's say, Islamic country, for example, they have different cultures. They have different. It's a cultural environment that is not like ours. So, it might trigger us to make different choices. So, I still have free will. I still make my choices, but that can be influenced by the culture I'm inserted in, at least temporarily. Another factor, another aspect, intelligence. Intelligence can influence on free will. For example, in the same situation, very same situation, two people can make two different choices. I want to go left, you want to go right. So one of them, the choices are different, and it could be because one of them might be more intelligent than the other. So the level of intellectual advancement can play a role in how I use my free will. I still have it, but it's about how I make my choices. A third aspect, contingencies, things that are kind of out of control, out of our control, and we have to make decisions usually really fast and sometimes by instinct almost. It affects the way we do free will. And another one, the presence of obsessing spirits or evil spirits, or sometimes called obsessors. They can make us shift our initial choice to something else. And this is very, very, very serious here. Allan Kardec explained to us that the level of obsession that these spirits, they become, we become, or we or those under influence become prey to them. And it can be such a strong, uh, uh, you know, duo, if you will, strong duo, that it can take away the free will of those under the influence of these spirits. It can just take away, to the point that, for example, we see situations where the spirit just says, just go to, climb or go to that bridge and just jump. And people will do that. Now they get into suicides and different things. It's not really what we want to discuss today, but they kind of lost, at least their perception is that they lost their free will. They are fully, they are just following what they're being told with no logical thinking anymore, no critical thinking anymore. So all these things, they can boost or inhibit free will, but they play a role. These influences are also subject to the level of advancement of the spirit, moral and intellectual advancement of the spirit. Just think about this. A highly evolved spirit, will not be predisposed to be influenced by the local culture where he or she lives. And certainly less likely to cede to obsessors. Highly evolved spirits will not allow for that. They will make use of their free will regardless if there are obsessors trying to get to him. On the other hand, less advanced spirits can fall for those things and go with the flow with the obsessors and can get carried away. So they kind of have their free will, at least for the moment, being challenged. So in the Spirits book, there's a interesting question. It's question 121, where Allan Kardec asks the spirits, why have some spirits followed the path of good, but others the path of evil? Which makes a lot of sense. It's a great question, by the way. And here's the answer. Don't they have free will? They answer with another question. Don't they have free will? And the answer continues. God does not create spirits evil from the start. So evil spirits is not a God thing. God does not create those. Continues. Those who are evil have become so through their own will. So you can make a choice to be an evil spirit if you want, or not. It's still a choice, still our choice. Now, all these choices, all this free will, all this thing, it comes with responsibility. It must come with responsibility. And there are two things to consider here. Making choices can be something completely individual. It just affects me, just myself, not nobody else. It's a choice that doesn't touch anybody else. But it could also be collective. My choices can affect other people around me. So our free will, our choices must carry responsibility within them. That's the law. That's part of the law. Not necessarily we are going to follow the law. That's a whole different story. But we should be aware of that. It has to carry responsibility. So, for example, think about collective responsibility. Here's an example. And we see this every day in our lives, anywhere in the world, no specific, no particular place. When people in power will make a choice for themselves, right? They actually make a choice for the entire group, community, whatever it is. So this spirit, he or she, bears that responsibility because it's a person, it's a spirit, incarnated spirit that is in power. And because of that, it will impact an entire group, an entire community, an entire city, state, country, whatever it is, the situation. So that's collective responsibility. So if that spirit, those in power, make bad choices, the price is very, very, very high because it's not only something against that goes against myself in the love debts and credits. So if I have, let's say, 200 people under my power, and I make a bad choice because I wanted to make something just for myself, I want to benefit myself from the position that I am on. So I make a choice that's going to benefit myself, but it's going to be a disaster for all those 200 people under me. That's a real bad choice. And we see this every day out there, every day. People in power making bad choices because they are benefiting, at least that's what they think. They are benefiting themselves and they don't care. So collective responsibility is something that we should have in mind when making decisions. Hardly ever, we make a decision that will not impact anybody else. No, our decisions, simple things on our daily lives, will affect the ones living with us, husband, wife, kids, family members, workers, colleagues. Our choices might impact them, so we must be aware of that. So we have an incentive to make better choices. So, in talking about collective responsibilities, there's a question in the Spirit's book. And here's the question. I'm going to read it to you. Does the distortion of the intellectual faculties because of drunkenness excuse reprehensible acts? In other words, I go out to the bar, drink all that I can, come out drunk, drive the car, for example, back home, and cause an accident, and I hit and I kill 10 people. Am I excusable? That's the question. So here's the answer: no, because drunkards intentionally, look at that, intentionally, because it was a choice, intentionally deprive themselves of their reason in order to satisfy their crude passions. Instead of one wrong, they commit two. It's very simple. When you get to this point that you're so drunk that you can't drive, right? How did you get to that point? Was that your choice, or it was the bottle's choice, or maybe the bartender's choice? It's you. It's the person who drinks. That's where the responsibility is on. Those bear that responsibility. Even worse if they cause an accident and hurt people, kill people. So that's not excusable. By the way, uh, in the coming weeks, I would say maybe 6 or 8 weeks, we are going to have we're going to take a closer look at social drinking under the Spiritist light. Social drinking. So stay tuned. Okay, let me bring you another example here on how free will can impact us negatively. negative in terms of making our own life more complicated. Very simple example. We just want to get a concept. Let's just think that you're going, or let me use myself as a reference. So I'm going to the grocery store to buy some groceries, of course. And there are, let's just assume that there are three ways that I can do this, three paths, three different ways that I can go there, three different streets. So here I go, I'm ready to go out, and I go, well, there are three streets that I can choose that will take me to the grocery store. And then I go like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna take this first road because if I take this road, I have to pass right in front of Joe's house, and I don't like him. We had a huge fight as neighbors in the past, and I really don't like him. I don't want to see him. I'm not taking this path. So this is a no-no. So think about this. Once I eliminated this path, how many are left? How many are left? Answer, 3. Because Joe's house is still there, the street's still there. So there are still 3. For me, I think there are 2. That's not true. There are 3, but my perception tells me there are only 2 now. Out of those 2, I'm thinking, okay, so I got 2, which one I'm gonna choose? So I'm gonna say, well, this one here, I don't like to go in there because it's a noisy, crowded street, a lot of people talking, it just makes me, I don't want to go through that. I don't want to face that, a lot of people, a lot of noise. So I'm not going this way either. And I turn it down. So now I turned Joe's houses down, and I brought down also the noisy street. How many ways do I have to get to the grocery store? Answer, 3. My perception tells me 1. That's not true. 3. So you see, from now on then, every time I go to the grocery store, there's only one way. According to my perception, physically there are 3 ways, but from my perception there's only one way. I can't do anything. Unfortunately, I don't have my free will. I only have one path, one way to go. So you see, that's not true. It's a limitation that I imposed on myself based on my previous actions, that I fought with Joe, that I don't like, noisy streets. So our past actions can shape our perception of free will. So from now on, if you ask me how can I go from your house to the grocery store, and I will gladly say, oh, there's only one way. And that's not true. There are 3 ways. So now I'm down to my last choice. There's only one. Can you imagine if something happens on that street, something I meet somebody that I don't like? What am I going to do? I never go to the grocery store again. So you see, we impose this, we make this complicated for ourselves. We, as spirits, create our own impairments. Nobody said you cannot use the other 2 streets. No, there's no divine decree that says you are forbidden to take this road. No, there is no such a thing. It's only me. And I keep saying there's only one way to go to the grocery store. Only one way. That's not true. So free will is inversely proportional to the spirit advancement. All of us, we are all created simple and ignorant, bound to perfection. But the path is not preset or predetermined. That's why we have free will. We undermine our choices. Just like in the example that I said, I had 3 paths, but I undermined 2 of them. So also free will is inversely proportional to the level of selfishness. Just like the example I gave you. I can't pass in front of Joe's house. I don't want to see that guy. We had a fight and so and so and so. So I'm not humble enough to go back there, pass through and give him a hey, hi. I don't have to hug him. I don't have to sit down for dinner with him. It's just a little sign, hi, that's all. But no, selfishness speaks higher. So I can't do this. So I'd rather undermine my choices than just say, hi, Joe, how are you? It's almost sad when we see it like that. So free will is inversely proportional to selfishness. So people who are not selfish, the Gandhis and Mother Teresa's and Brazilian medium Chico Xavier, Brazilian speaker and medium Divaldo Franco, all these people, they're happy all the time because they can make a bunch of choices. The more selfish we are angry all the time because we don't see the choices. We are angry all the time. There's only one way to do this. And it might not even be a way or a method that you like. And you have to live with that because you undermined all the other choices. So it gets so complicated that certain people get to this point. There is only one way for me to go on with my life, which is go into a school and perform a mass shooting event. Well, the kids don't have anything to do with this. But for that person, it's the only way. Because that person undermined all the other possibilities because it's so selfish. Same for terrorism. If you ask a terrorist, why did you do this? The answer is, it's the only way. They can't see all the other choices anymore. So these attitudes, these mass shootings, mass destruction, terrorism, all these things, it's their last resource because at this point, free will is gone. It's their last resource. We don't want to get close to this. Not a bit. So what do we need to do? We need to seek the other options and try them. Next time I go to the grocery store, I'm going to go through and see and pass by Joe's house. If Joe is not there, he's not there outside in the garden. If he's there, maybe a sign will do it. And that's all. Nothing bad is going to happen. By the way, something good is going to happen, take place. We will reach our goal of working for our advancement when we obey the law, God's law, which is engraved in our conscience. And that law says no selfishness, which automatically translates into more free will for yourself. Not obeying this law is not working for our advancement. The path towards advancement depends on free will. Like the Spirit says, a short path, it depends on free will. A short path is that of the good, and a long path is that of the evil. It's a lot to think about. There's a lot of philosophical questions, behind all of this. But we need to consider that our free will, we we assign free will to ourselves with our attitudes, we can have the perception that we have more free will or less free will. Based on what? On how we live our lives. We want to be selfish. We want to be prideful. Okay. That's less free will automatically. Again, it's a choice, and it's all about learning that, number one, we have the ability to make choices. We have free will. Number two, once we have free will, why not make better choices? Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this quick talk about free will. We are going to be here next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Don't forget, Eastern Time.